Welcome back, dear friends. We are so happy to see you again on this amazing journey through history. In our last adventure, Columbus set sail across the unknown. Today, we continue the story where the waves of destiny carried him and how his return shook the world forever. So sit back, relax, and let's dive once again into the tides of history together. Think of Christopher Columbus. What's the first thing that comes to mind? For many of us, it's the old story that he sailed west to prove the earth was round, bravely defying the flat earthers of his time. But what if I told you that's one of the biggest myths in history? The real story is far more interesting and revolves around a massive, world-altering miscalculation. By the late 15th century, educated people in Europe, including Columbus, already knew the Earth was a sphere. The ancient Greeks had figured that out over 1,000 years earlier. The real debate wasn't about the asterisk shape of the Earth, but its asterisk size, and this is where our story truly begins. Columbus wasn't a brave visionary fighting against scientific ignorance. He was a stubborn navigator who was spectacularly wrong about his math. The established science of the day, based on the calculations of the Greek scholar Eratosthenes and later refined by Arab astronomers, had a pretty accurate estimate of the Earth's circumference. It was around 25,000 miles, which is remarkably close to the actual figure. But Columbus had a different idea. He was a man with a mission, a burning ambition to find a direct westward sea route to the fabulously wealthy Spice Islands and the Far East, what they then called the Indies, to make his proposed voyage seem possible and, more importantly, profitable. Columbus needed the journey to be short. So, he went looking for numbers that would support his theory. He cherry-picked data from various sources, some of them outdated and inaccurate. He relied heavily on the calculations of Ptolemy, whose estimate of the Earth's size was already smaller than reality. But Columbus didn't stop there. He also trusted the accounts of Marco Polo, whose descriptions of Asia made the continent seem much larger and extend further east than it actually did. Then, he latched on to the theories of a Florentine scholar named Paolo dal Pazzo Toscanelli, who also argued for a smaller Earth and a shorter westward journey to Asia. Columbus combined these flawed sources, threw in some of his own wishful thinking, and came up with a wildly optimistic calculation. He ended up underestimating the Earth's circumference by about 25%. In his mind, the world was a much cozier, more compact place. According to his math, Japan, or Chipangu, as Marco Polo called it, was only about 2,400 nautical miles west of the Canary Islands. The real distance is over 10,000 nautical miles. He essentially erased the entire Pacific Ocean and the American continents from his mental map of the world. He shrunk the globe to fit his ambition. This wasn't just a minor error. It was a colossal blunder. He presented his flawed plan to the experts in the courts of Portugal and Spain. The Portuguese scholars, who were the leading maritime experts of their time, took one look at his numbers and basically laughed him out of the room. They knew their geography. They told him, correctly, that the ocean was far too vast and his ships would run out of supplies long before reaching Asia. They were right. But Columbus was persistent. After years of lobbying, he finally convinced Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand of Spain. Why did they agree? It was a mix of factors. Spain had just finished the Reconquista, uniting the country, and was eager to compete with Portugal for trade routes and global influence. Columbus's proposed voyage while a long shot was a relatively low-risk, high-reward gamble. If he failed, they lost a few ships. But if he succeeded, Spain would control a direct route to the immense wealth of the East, bypassing the routes controlled by their rivals. So, in August 1492, Columbus set sail with the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria letters. He was supremely confident that he was on a direct path to Asia. His crew, however, grew more and more anxious as the weeks turned into a month, and then longer. They had sailed much farther than Columbus had predicted they would need to reach land. Tensions were high, and there was talk of mutiny. They were in uncharted waters, literally sailing off the edge of their known world with no land in sight. Just when the expedition was at its breaking point, on October 12, 1492, a lookout spotted land. Columbus was overjoyed. He was convinced he had done it. He believed he had landed on an island in the East Indies, near Japan or China. This is why he called the native people he encountered Indians, a name that has stuck for centuries despite being born from a geographical mistake of epic proportions. Of course, he hadn't reached Asia. He had stumbled upon the Bahamas, a landmass completely unknown to Europeans. He had unknowingly discovered a whole new world, or rather, he initiated the lasting contact between two worlds that had developed in isolation for millennia. Even after this first voyage, and on his subsequent 3 voyages to the Americas, Columbus clung to his belief. He explored parts of Cuba, Hispaniola, and the coasts of Central and South America, all the while searching for clues that would prove he was in Asia. He looked for the grand cities described by Marco Polo, for the court of the Great Khan, for the spices and gold of the Orient. He found some gold, but nothing on the scale he had imagined. He died in 1506, still stubbornly insisting that he had found the western route to Asia. It took the explorations of others, like Amerigo Vespucci, after whom the Americas are named, to gradually reveal the truth. This was not the edge of Asia. This was a mundus novus, a new world. It was a massive continent, or rather 2 continents, standing in the way of the westward route to the Indies. So, the story of Columbus is not about a man proving the earth is round. It's a powerful lesson in confirmation bias. It's about a man so convinced of his own theory that he bent all the evidence to fit it, ignored the experts who knew better, and ultimately succeeded, not because he was right, but because he was wrong in a way that no one could have ever anticipated. His monumental error in geography didn't lead him to failure. It led him to an entirely different continent, reshaping the course of human history forever. It's a fascinating reminder that sometimes the greatest discoveries are made by mistake. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this dive into historical misconceptions as interesting as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that challenges what you think you know. We'd love to have you as part of our community. See you in the next video.